Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novy-Williams, and this is the Here Come the Swifties sports business podcast, the Sporticast.
Yeah, Mr. Novy-Williams, you know that I do not spend my Sundays on the couch watching NFL football. I'm usually in an ice rink. I'm driving home from some cold ice rink. I'm out and about. But I got to tell you, Sunday night, I did tune in to see the Kansas City Chiefs play a little bit, and oh my Lord, like, it was everywhere. From the broadcast to Twitter to the news shows to the highlights, there was zero chance, to my wife upstairs saying, "Hey, Taylor Swift's at the game," and then I had to tell her who Travis Kelce is, and just on and on. I mean, this thing really took off as number one story in sports, number one story in entertainment. Great for our brands, Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter. This is the convergence of sports and entertainment at the highest level.
That's right, and the NFL's business is so big. There's few really other big pockets of entertainment that the NFL probably doesn't touch at all. And I think Taylor Swift fans may be one of those pockets. If I'm the NFL, I am thrilled by this. This is
just a
group of
gift.
Young women. I'm sure you saw the Twitter accounts that were trying to explain the rules of the NFL of football to Taylor Swift fans as fast as they could on Sunday as everyone was watching it. The Taylor Swift's business is huge. She's doing $5 billion from this tour that's going around the country right now, which is an insane number. But yeah, this is probably a corner that the NFL wants to reach and has not really had a lot of success with quite yet. And for as long as this relationship lasts, I'm sure anyone who's working with Travis, anyone around the NFL is trying to figure out ways to maximize the value of it while it's happening.
Yeah, the NFL tells us that 50% of its fan base is female. Now, I mean, what is the right demographic for Swiftie? Is that 13 to 24? Whatever that may be, I'm guessing it is not a large segment of the 50%. Yeah. It's higher on the other end? Okay.
Yeah, I think it probably goes up to 40 or so.
All right, but I mean, everywhere on Twitter, you saw her fans saying, "Wait, I don't get this." Like, wait a minute, isn't she an Eagles fan? Right? She came out as an Eagles fan, but she's wearing the Chiefs stuff. She's next to Travis Kelce's mother in the press box. And the winner here, like, Taylor Swift is huge. Like, she's everywhere. Like you said, she came off the Eras tour. I believe it's going to be in the AMC theaters. She'll do like another however many million there.
Yeah.
Like, Travis Kelce, he's got the number one podcast, he and his brother, and now he is reaching a whole new audience. To me, he's a big winner, and anybody that does business with Travis, as you said, is kicking into high gear. How do we make him the face of our brand at this particular moment? Because who knows how long this will last.
For folks who are not familiar with Travis, he's one of the best tight ends in the league. He is building kind of slowly off the field a Pat McAfee style personality. He's loud, he's brash, he has the WWE NFL crossover thing in his veins. My guess is that Travis looks at Pat McAfee's post-playing career and thinks, I want to be a version of that in some capacity. It's been very
but I'm not going to wait until I'm done playing. That's the beauty of today's athlete. I'm not going to wait.
No, it's exactly right. That his brother Jason, we mentioned this with Mike last week, has a Amazon documentary that was just made about him. Travis obviously features in that. They're a football family. Travis he's a compelling guy, but you're right. This puts him in a different stratosphere. And he's in 2 national ad campaigns right now, one with Budweiser, one with Pfizer, I believe, promoting the new COVID vaccine. You're seeing them all over. You're going to see more of it in the next week for sure. I think both those companies are going to try to get those ads in as many places as possible because of how hot he is. And then one more thing I'll say on the Taylor Swift side, Scott, it's no secret that the NFL has been trying to get her to play halftime show for a few years now. She does not seem to be particularly interested in, but that's how much the NFL, I think, realized that this is a woman whose orbit we want to be involved in. And if it's not her playing at halftime, this is a pretty great way, again, to get Taylor Swift involved in the NFL and therefore get her millions and millions of avid fans to also start paying attention.
Didn't Taylor have a Pepsi-Coke conflict? Like, Pepsi was sort of the sponsor of the halftime show. Didn't she have a Coke conflict, which is why we didn't think it would ever happen? And then Pepsi gave up the halftime to Apple.
It's Apple now.
And then it was like, okay, everybody thought, of course, now it's going to be Taylor Swift. and it turned out not to be Taylor Swift. But all right, now we have. And by the way, is there anybody who had worse timing than Usher? Announced as the halftime performer, only to get upstaged. Yes, and I will say he totally got upstaged by Taylor Swift showing up at the Chiefs game. And if I can delve even further, this is not a political podcast by any stretch, but it is sports business. And we're talking about the brands involved with Travis Kelce trying now to use him as the face. Think about the two you just said. Are there any more polarizing things right now? Well, among the more polarizing things, you have Budweiser and the Bad Bud Light campaign that got panned across, and you had what's his name, Kid Rock shooting the Bud Light cans. You have that, and you're talking about vaccination. I mean, you're talking about issues that really are polarizing, that divide the nation. In Missouri. And now can Travis Kelce become the face of these things around the country? Because I would think he appealed to red state voters, kind of, if I may go cliche, a lunch pail football player. That seems to be in a demo where he may be a vehicle for communication. So I just find it not only the who, but the brands that he's associated with right now. And now Taylor Swift, we know where she stands sort of on the political spectrum.
Of course.
I mean, what an interesting mix there. I don't know. I don't know how you utilize them.
Conservative pundits have already grasped on this exact thing, right? That there is an irony that the two biggest companies seemingly backing Kelce right now are vaccine and Bud Light. And you're right, it does align, I think, perfectly with what Taylor Swift is trying to do and saying, both in public appearances and at her concert. I assume, Scott, and maybe I could be totally wrong about this, but I assume this relationship is probably not going to last very long.
Why do you say that? You doomsayer.
Yeah, did I just jinx them? I just think that a lot of celebrity couples, especially ones that Taylor Swift has been in, have been very short-lived. And I do wonder what the staying power is, if this is a strike while the iron's hot, if there is an afterglow that happens for him or for her or for the NFL, whatever it is. I'm very curious to see kind of what the length is here and how much of this is a 1 week flash in the pan. It's cool to see her cheering in the box, or how much of this is something that is sustainable.
Well, I would come at it from the NFL's perspective. This is okay. We got a taste here. We got a sampling of the Taylor Swift mania, sampling our game and reaching those fans. How now, even if this Travis Kelce thing is an ephemeral relationship, let's use big SAT words, how can the NFL maybe keep it going? How do we now, can we utilize Taylor in the future, even if she is not connected to Travis Kelce in some way? Because I'm not sure the Travis Kelce fans, the football fans, Taylor Swift fans, are they buying tickets to the Eras tour? Is a song about the breakup going to lead the next tour? Yeah, I'm not really sure where it goes, but I know the NFL. Remember when the NFL was in the Fortnite game with the skins? And I said to you, It isn't often that the NFL is the party that needs the other side more. I thought the NFL needed Fortnite more than Fortnite needed the NFL. Where do we stand here? Who needs who? Does the NFL need Taylor Swift more than Taylor Swift needs the NFL? And once again, I would say, I would take away the need, but in the benefit, I would say the NFL benefits.
Need is a strong word.
That's exactly. I get it. It's a colloquial need, but I would say that the NFL stands to potentially benefit more from a relationship with Taylor Swift than Taylor Swift does when a relationship was showing up at NFL stadiums on Sunday.
I 100% agree with that. And this is, I think, why we haven't seen Taylor Swift do a halftime show. The NFL does not pay for that. It is something that the artist, foots the bill for. And for a lot of artists, it's extremely valuable, and they benefit a lot from it. Taylor has clearly thought about that calculation and decided it is not worth it in her world. So, I've always thought, Scott, of the Taylor Swift on one end, huge entertainment platform that the NFL maybe doesn't reach too much. The Kardashians being another one, and I know the NFL has been working and is going to continue working with the Kardashians. I think actually Usher's halftime show, I believe the Kardashians were involved in both the negotiation and the announcement there. But yeah, this is we talk on the show every week, Scott, about this crossover between entertainment and sports, and this is another perfect example of two mega multi-billion-dollar parts of this ecosystem coming together in a way that catches lightning in a bottle.
Expect more of it. We talk about it like we had the Variety and Sporticast Sports and Entertainment Summit in LA, and it just, athletes are so much more cognizant of what they can do, what their celebrity and their platforms allow them to do now, both in just PR and in cold hard cash, that we're just going to see more of these huge brands coming together. And by the way, not just two, like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, but it's Kelce, it's the Chiefs, it's the NFL, it's Mahomes. You're going to see if them all get together and see what can we all do with the power of the brands united. And speaking of Usher, by the way, I was watching him. He did an interview this morning on the CBS morning show. And he told Gayle King, he just one line that was a bit of a throwaway, but he said, I've collaborated with a lot of people. And I'm wondering if we're doing a little foreshadowing. Is this going to be just Usher, or is this going to be, oh my God, I can't believe Jay-Z, who, by the way, also helps put this together. Oh my God, I can't believe this person or this person. Like we may have 4, 5, 6 cameos of megastars with him, and then people tuning in. I know it's only 15 minutes, but people sticking around to see, who's next?
Yeah, Bieber would be probably the top of that list, I would think, of people thinking about Usher collaborators that people would love to see. This is also just the future of the halftime show, right? I can't think of the last halftime show that was just a single act. Yeah. Okay. So maybe Scott, Beyonce was the last one there, but the NFL increasingly seems to be trying to do these mega cast versions of 5 or 6 acts. Maybe you bring in someone that doesn't love the main act but loves the other act, and there's anticipation, right? Just the anticipation of
you
what
can tease it any way you want
going to do and who is going to come with him is going to draw eyeballs to this event for sure.
Yeah, I remember we were watching with friends, and I told you at the time that the halftime show is when the living room was full, the only time. When people came from downstairs who were doing something else, people came from outside who were doing something else, people came from the kitchen who were doing something else, people came from the living room or stay there. It was the only time where everybody in the house came together because everybody wanted to see Beyonce and what the show would be like. So, yeah, speaking of TV and big audiences and the NFL, how are those New York Jets going to do with all of those national TV performances? I cannot wait to see how Aaron Rodgers leads them to the promised land. Other networks were loading up on Jets, Jets, Jets. Only, oh man. I'm actually starting to feel bad for Zach Wilson.
It's a worse position, obviously, than it was after week 1. When Aaron Rodgers got hurt, the team held on. They beat a fairly good team. And I think the question for a lot of these networks was, is this defense good enough that they can be competitive
as long as they were winning? Yep.
Moving forward. And unfortunately, I think we've probably seen the answer to that question. That just lost to the Patriots this past weekend. The question about are they going to shift, flex, move some games off? I think we're getting closer to a definitive answer here. I can't imagine the Jets stay in all their windows. I cannot imagine.
No, there's no way.
Given just again how bad things actually look in terms of on-field product and how compelling it is.
But there was a time not long ago where there really wasn't that much flexibility. Right, there really wasn't the ability to come and give me new games or whatever. At least that was taken care of, and I think it obviously promoted by the network side. We're paying a whole bunch of money. One of the things we need is the ability, because it is impossible to figure out who's going to be a good football team the year before. You just one injury to a key player, as we saw with Aaron, and everything changes. And boy, I can't think of anybody. Or too many folks who would be like, yeah, I really want to see that primetime Jets game, and they're down by 20 points in the second quarter.
And there's a cost to flexing, right? It's not as simple as okay, we're going to move this game and this game. It's bad for fans. There are fans that have tickets to games that don't know exactly when they're going to be playing. Same for networks. It's not as easy as just flipping a switch. And I believe I was on an NFL call 2 weeks ago when this exact topic came up, Scott, and I believe they said that on average they flex 1.5 games a year or something like that. So it is fairly infrequent. And I agree. I think we're going to see a bit more of the flexing this year as they decide who else can we better fit into this slot than the Jets.
Speaking of flexing, and not the flexing as in flexibility, but the flexing as in, hey, look at us. We didn't say we were going to talk about this, but as we were just talking about Jets, it popped in my head. Did you see Woody Johnson with Johnny Infantino?
No, are you talking about his necklace though? I didn't see the Johnny.
No.
Infantino,
Oh, no. This
Woody
weekend. No. Johnny was at the game. He was at MetLife just as the week before. He was in Dallas. All while we're seeing reports of there's a rift between SoFi and FIFA in terms of a possible venue for the World Cup in the U.S. All of these stadiums want the World Cup final held there. And I'm really not sure if Johnny Infantino really needs to make the rounds and see all these places. But, there he is sitting, with the Joneses at AT&T, MetLife with Woody Johnson. I just found it interesting that Johnny Infantino's making the rounds and everybody's sort of putting their best foot forward to host the big game of the World Cup.
Realistically, there are 3 cities that I think have any real shot at this at all.
Would
it's
you
New
say
York, it's LA,
DC,
and
New
Dallas.
York? Dallas? You say Dallas?
I wouldn't say DC. Yeah, I would say Dallas just because of the stadium and Jerry Jones and all that.
Okay.
I would expect it would be between New York and LA. But the process for this World Cup, I know from people who have been involved, is very frustrating. It took a very long time to narrow down the cities, and once they narrow down the cities, they've done a very poor job. They haven't really narrowed down who's getting what and when quite yet. It's obviously going to be a huge commercial event, and these stadiums and teams want to know as soon as possible when they're hosting games, etc. It's going to affect potentially spring training, or not spring training for NFL teams. It could affect training camp or whatever they're doing at their stadiums, other tours, summer tours, concerts, European soccer, whatever it is that may be happening there. There are other downstream effects. I know a lot of these teams and venues and cities, right? Because a lot of these cities are owners of some of these stadiums. They want to know soon. And from what I understand, the process has been slower and less communicative than originally thought. And I think there's some growing frustration there. And there's definitely, as you said with Johnny, he's making the rounds because it's becoming a lobbying issue at this point, right? It's trying to get the people that have some of that say, trying to impress them in a way that gets you what you want.
Are these RFPs where they're like, FIFA's like, all right, tell me what's your economic model for us playing our game here? You want what % of gate? You want this or that? Like, we should delve a little bit into the economics of hosting this one game and what the halo effect is, if at all, down the road.
It's a good question. I know that process already happened. All of these cities have already gone through the wanna be a host city process. I don't know if there's then another process.
I've submitted a revised offer, Mr. Infantino.
I don't know exactly how that works, but it's very clear that these teams still feel like there is work to be done in some capacity, trying to woo or make themselves look like a more attractive place for the more important games other than just group stage games.
I could just see Woody Johnson saying, wait, hold on, Johnny, wait, come with me to the concourse level. I want to show you. Look, you see the chicken strips now are they're now cooked in canola oil. Much healthier. You should put the game here. The economics of this one game, though, absolutely fascinating.
And don't look at the turf field because we'll have a very nice grass field on that surface for when.
Just don't tell the NFLPA. Don't tell the NFLPA, but wink, wink. For that game, we will have lovely Bermuda grass. What kind of grass? You have any idea what kind of grass it is?
I don't
Let's
know.
look that in.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Bermuda.
That's the only one I can name.
That's for golf. I don't know if that's for cleat sports.
Speaking of large stadiums, although this one normally isn't filled, but will be filled, and the economics of it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about, because you've been talking about this for a while, and you guys finally wrote it up. Messi going to Chicago, unlike Atlanta, which has 70,000 folks anyway. So, bringing him is great. It's a good thing, but it really doesn't move the needle all that much. It's going to move the needle in Chicago. It is a game changer.
Yeah, there's few teams, maybe no team, that will host Messi in the next few years in MLS that stands to gain more financially from that one game than the Chicago Fire. It's a team, as you said, plays in an NFL venue, 62,000 seat Soldier Field. They do not draw particularly well. They're averaging, I think, 14,000, 15,000 a game.
More, 14? Okay.
Yeah, slightly more, but still, you can do the math there. That leaves 45,000 tickets that they can sell to get to a sellout that they're not typically
That's when the producer
selling.
uses 2 words to the cameraman. Tight shot.
Yeah, there you go. And we, my colleague Asla and I spoke with some folks at the Fire recently to detail exactly what they're doing. And for folks who listen to this show who enjoyed Marc de Grandpré's interview, he's the GM of the Red Bull. We had him on this show, Scott, a couple weeks ago talking about what the Red Bull were doing. We went into even more detail on the Fire. But the top line numbers are fascinating. The Fire are projecting around $10 million, probably more, in ticket sales for this one game. That is by far an MLS record for any regular season or playoff game in the league's history. And that will be 55 to 60% of all of the tickets that the Fire sell all season. So for all of their other home games, they're not going to add up to what they're going to sell just for this one home game against Lionel Messi. And we went into the pricing strategy, dynamic pricing, how they think about the secondary market and primary, how they're packaging games, the way they are selling suites. They added 200 seats, premium seats, Scott, to the field, essentially, creating seats that are not there for any other Fire game that they can then sell for 4 digits mostly. Very expensive,
folding chair at the back of the goal.
Yeah, and they're $5,000 to sit there, Scott. We went into all this. They sold a sponsorship recently that included the right to be the presenting sponsor for this one game. They're also talking about what to do if Messi does not play, which became an issue in Atlanta when he didn't even make the trip, didn't even travel with Inter Miami to Atlanta. But the Fire are talking about, do we give a discount towards the Inter Miami game next year? They're obviously not going to refund tickets. But
anyone who's seen the movie History of the World, there's a particular scene that tickles my funny bone and reminds me of pro sports, where they take a vote as to whether or not they should use the money to help the poor, or in language I cannot use here, let's just say not attend to the poor. And universally, the arms come up in the let us not attend to the poor. I'm guessing the discussion of, what's the give back? I mean, it's really not on them. If a player on the other team does not play, hey, I'm sorry, folks. This, once again, I'll bring in the caveat emptor. It is what it is. You're buying on the chance that he's coming and you want to see him play.
One thing I want to highlight that I thought was fascinating from that conversation, the Fire set aside a number of tickets that they are giving away for free. And the way they're giving them away for free is they're running weekly free-to-enter sweepstakes. So you sign up for the sweepstakes, and they pick a random name, and they give away the tickets. The president of the Fire, or president of business operations, said they're adding tens of thousands of new email signups to their database.
Email capture,
Those are people that have never bought a Fire game before, but clearly are at least interested in entering their name into the ring to see Lionel Messi, and that is a lead for a potential sale of a ticket down the line. So thinking about all these things is, how do you capture the lightning in a bottle that is this one game? One of the things they're doing that I think is very smart is they're running a free-to-enter sweepstakes that, again, is getting a lot of new names, people in the area that the Fire have not interacted with before, that they might be able to sell to in the future as well.
Not make it part of a 2-game package. Got to buy 2 games to get the Lionel Messi game.
They're doing some of the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
The balance is actually really interesting because one of the things he said, and I think Mark said the same thing about the Red Bull, is that this is going to be such a huge commercial thing for them, but you always run the risk of pricing out all of your fans, doing something very different for this one game that suddenly makes the ones that you care about the most, the avid Fire fans, make them upset. So trying to figure out ways to do right by your season ticket holders, to do right by your fans that maybe don't have the money to buy the $9,000 sideline seat, whatever it is, trying to strike that balance of maximizing the profit of this one game, making sure that your fans feel happy about the way that you're doing it, and 2 and 3, trying to extend the halo effect through into next year, get people into season tickets, get people into bigger game packages. That balance, I think, is really interesting.
Yep. All right. Also interesting, last week we had our Converge event, which Sportico puts on. It sort of highlights the convergence, see what we did there, of sports and technology. Nice. Now, for the first time in all the years, Eben, I had to miss an event. My focus group of 1 was committed to I think it was the USHL something tournament in Pittsburgh. I have no idea. I don't pay attention to. I don't know the names. I can tell you, a lot of really good teams there. For those who follow the show and don't know the results, the Mid Fairfield team went to the championship game, Heck of a game against Penn's Elite. So we're in Pittsburgh playing the Penguins Elite. 2-1 win in the semifinal. And not for nothing, referee mistake. Late in the game, our guy ripped one from the left side. It hit the crossbar and bounced out. And it sounded, there's a different sound when you hit the bar that's under the net, the one that's underneath. It's more of a doink than the dink, and it sounded like a doink, not a dink. So to the referee's, credit there, I too thought, wait, that must have gone underneath. And the referee said goal. And we saw the replays afterwards, was not a goal. So Penn's people also saw those replays. They were not at all too happy. But we'll see him again this weekend, by the way. So we move on to the championship game against Mount St. Charles, let's just say blue blood hockey academy in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. We win 4-2, defeat in the championship. And I'm not patting him on the back. I say the good and the bad, but I will tell you a focus group of one played one hell of a game. We were outshot 47-17 and in it the whole way before finally losing 4-2. So there's the update. I miss Converge. You now have the hockey update. Please give me the update of what your takeaways were from the Converge conference.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Fire drill right here.
That's all right. Just talk about it and keep going. Oh, hold on. New York Fire Safety Director. I think it's just a test.
Great. Okay. 3, 2, 1. A really interesting, Scott, set of discussions there. No surprise, AI on top of mind for a lot of people, both people who have been using it for a while and some really interesting takeaways about how they were and how they were doing that effectively. And then people who are now in the course of the past few months suddenly realizing that, this is something we need to incorporate. How can this revolutionize our business? What are the pitfalls? What do we want to make sure we're not doing to avoid problems with it? So that was a big one. There was a really interesting discussion with the folks over at Genius Sports, executives from the NFL as well, about the way in which data is changing the way that we think about watching, consuming sports. And that's true at the team level in terms of evaluating players. It's true at the business level, doing business operations and using data to your advantage. It's true for sports betting. It's true for media companies. Everyone in this industry is thinking about ways to collect data better, how to parse it better, and how to present it in ways that whoever's using it has a better experience with it. So that was one. And then I'll say one other thing. There was a really interesting talk about the way in which leagues specifically are rethinking local media rights. It's something that affects, obviously, the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball. There were executives from all three of those leagues having this conversation. And one of the things that popped up in this talk is something that we talked about last week, Scott, with Mike Tolan, this idea of blending live rights and scripted, non-scripted content, I think is going to be a bigger and bigger thing soon. Mike Tolan, if you remember, said that for Slam Ball next year, the live games they're showing on ESPN are going to happen kind of in concert with the docuseries that they filmed all of this year. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that, is the live rights directly packaged next to things like docuseries or even scripted shows that all these leagues are now thinking about. I think we're going to see those two things together more, as opposed to I watch my games here and then I catch the documentary on Netflix. I think we're going to see more of those things traveling together to rights holders moving forward.
All right. Our next event, by the way, October 11th in New York City, our Invest in Sports, one of our signature events. How do you like this for a line? And I can't go through everybody, but we will have Hal Steinbrenner, Randy Levine. We will have Steve Cohen, David Blitzer, Jerry Cardinal, Jimmy Haslam, John Ledecky. Ted Leonsis is going to have a nice discussion with George Pine about institutional capital in sports. We'll have panels on banking, private equity, women's sports, athletes as investors. I mean, pretty damn good.
Love that, Scott. Love it.
Looking forward to it. All right, close the show, my friends.
Alrighty. He is Scott Soshnick on Twitter at Soshnick. I am Eben Novy-Williams on Twitter at Novy_Williams. The show is produced by Aaron Greenewald. Thank you very much to Aaron. Sportico's digital media editor, Cora Veltman, would like you to know that you can follow the show at Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network.
Not sure about that one.